Let's dive into probably my very favorite topic to discuss, a complete beginner's guide to presenting. We'll segment this up into 3 portions. First, everything that happens before you actually deliver your presentation, so the preparation part. Then your actual delivery, followed by what you should do after you sit down from your presentation. Let's jump into the preparation side. First, you need to prepare your content, your material of what you'll be delivering in your presentation. Have you done your due diligence? Have you done plenty of research? Do you have authoritative sources of data and facts and figures that are backing up your argument? What you should find is a balance between the extremes of 1, you're just regurgitating other people's content, and 2, you're just floating on your own opinions and perspectives. Find a balance in between where you have those authoritative sources, but you're also instilling and integrating your own opinions on that topic. Make sure that your argument, what you are conveying in your presentation, makes logical sense throughout. So define what your main points are and make sure those connections between those main points are rock solid, that the logic is there. You're connecting with your audience's minds, that logo side of it. So you've got main point A, main point B, main point C. Thread those very, very simply and clearly. If your audience can't understand why you're jumping from point B to point C or from point A to point B, then you're doing something wrong. You need to simplify, you need to clarify how you're connecting those points. Maybe you've got a bunch of points that you want to bring up, all leading to one big, hey, look at this. That's okay, just make sure those logical connections, again, are connecting between each of those points. Absolutely use generative AI sources to help bolster your argument. Look up content, look up information, get ideas, learn, but don't just regurgitate ChatGPT or other generative AI sources. Now let's talk about the use of slide decks or PowerPoint for your presentation. First of all, do not feel like you have to use slides. Oftentimes, people will just throw slides up there just because they feel like they have to. You do not. As a beginner presenter, there is nothing that says you must use PowerPoint slide decks for your presentation. So don't if you don't need to. If you just need to get up there with a whiteboard, that's okay. If you're just getting up there and talking, that's okay too. Whatever makes most sense. Now, most of the time, maybe 70–80% of the time, slide decks are helpful as a resource to supplement and bolster your presentation, your actual delivery. So as you're presenting, you're going to want to make sure that your slides are supporting your argument, not you're relying on your slides and you're just reading through the content in the slide deck. So make sure that you've prepared your slide decks in a way that just hits key points and charts, graphs, images, videos, supplemental material that helps and integrates naturally with what you are conveying in your presentation.
Now, you have probably heard many people recommend practicing your delivery in front of a mirror. I recommend not. What I have found is that the more a presenter practices in front of a mirror, the less human and natural and authentic he or she is. They become more robotic and mechanical the more they practice. They start regurgitating content verbatim and memorizing instead of knowing the content inside and out and delivering a natural, authentic presentation.
Next, you need to understand your audience. Who are they? What makes them tick? What are their hopes and their fears, their dreams, their needs? Why are they taking valuable time out of their day to come and watch you give a presentation? What I like to do before every single presentation is ask for, or just look in a virtual meeting as an example, and see who is in the meeting invite, who is there. See if you have any connections with any of them, either personal or via a work engagement. During your presentation and even after, if you can make those simple, small connection points with individuals, that can go a long way in connecting with your audience. Understanding the basic demographics of your audience can go a long ways in helping you connect with their hearts, with their emotions, that pathos side of it. Here's an example. You wouldn't bring up a reference to VHSs and CDs to a Gen Z teenage audience. They wouldn't have any clue what you're talking about. You wouldn't go bouncing in there with a ton of enthusiasm and passion to a group of professors who are very solemn and melancholy. That would be off-putting. You also wouldn't have a reference to the stocks that are killing it for you and making 7 figures a year to a group of lower income individuals who are just barely learning the stock market. Those kinds of understandings of the demographics of your audience can really help you tune your message. Now, you don't want to tune your message so much to your audience and tailor it extremely so that your message just comes across as you're just there to connect with them and network with them. I would say around 10 to 15% of your message could be tuned to your audience, where you still have that credibility, that ethos side of it, but you are connecting with your audience in a way that speaks to them, that makes sense to them. How should you dress for your presentation? Always remember the 2/3 rule, and here's how to figure that out. Number one, find out what your audience's dress code is. Is it casual, business casual, formal, very casual? Wherever that is, find what that dress code range is. Then you take the nicest side of that and the less nice side of that and go 2/3 towards the nice side of that range for the audience's dress code. That's your sweet spot. If you go over that, you're gonna come across as haughty or arrogant and disconnected from your audience. If you go too far below that, you're going to come across as apathetic, like you don't really care about giving this presentation. So, audience's dress code, nice end, less nice end, 2/3 of the way up, that is your range for dressing. The last portion of preparation that we'll talk about today is the mental and emotional preparation for you as the presenter. You are human, you are natural. That is okay to feel nerves. Sometimes it presents itself with sweaty hands. My hands get a little bit sweaty when I get a little nervous. You might shake, you might feel like you're gonna throw up and be sick. All of that is okay. Here's a tip to handle those nerves prior to the presentation. First of all, do not block them. Do not pretend like they don't exist. That is bad. That will represent itself later on in bad ways. What you do is prior to your presentation, an hour before, a day before, the night before, sometime within 24 hours before your presentation, what I do is just sit, close my eyes, and think, walk through the entire presentation. Okay, I'm in this setting, I'm about to stand up, I'm feeling really nervous, the person before me is about to end, I'm seeing my audience, you're picturing that, you're walking through it mentally, and let those nerves just wash over you. Let them overcome you, take over. Then, when you are ready to give your presentation, you're still going to feel some nerves, but that extreme side of feeling those nerves isn't going to be there. It's going to be more manageable. You've walked through it already. You've built up some confidence that, hey, I can do this. You can do this. That's how you manage those nerves for when you stand up there and are ready to give your presentation. All right, you have done all the preparation you can. You are ready. You are standing up there to start delivering your presentation. First of all, your intro. Do not start with a joke unless it is these 4 things, and you can take a look at the video to see what those 4 things are. Second, don't start off with one big long story unless it is very short, simple, concise, not overused, and it actually integrates and fits into your content naturally. Don't force it. Don't force stories and these gotchas, these intros that are intended to really quickly connect with your audience. My preference is always just standing up there and just jumping right into the material, right into the content. You don't need any preamble for those cheap connection points. Just get in there, deliver the material. Now, throughout your delivery, you are welcome and invited to share some stories, some analogies, some metaphors, some experiences from yourself or others that are connecting your points, that are contributing and enhancing your presentation. But don't plug those in there just for those connection points. Here are a couple of the worst possible ways to start your presentation. First of all, how's everyone doing tonight? I can't hear you. Let's try that again. Please do not do that. It is so cringy and awkward. Don't start your presentation with, hey, by the raise of hands, how many of you, whatever. Also, don't start with your feelings on being asked to give this presentation. I hear that all the time. Yeah, when I was asked to give this presentation, I was really nervous and I may have not prepared as much as I could have or should have. don't start like that. Just get into your material, get into your content, and skip the niceties that are intended to loosen up the audience. It often backfires and does quite the opposite and makes it just awkward and cringy. Here is the most important portion of this entire video. If I could give one bit of advice to new presenters, it is this. The world tries to fit us in a mold of a presentation style. You need to be as dynamic and engaging and excited and passionate as you possibly can be in order to connect with your audience. Not true. You be you in every sense of that phrase. If you are more introverted and less comfortable in front of people, that's okay. Present in that style, whatever suits you. Personally, I'm an omnivert. I do like people and gain energy from interacting with them, but I also love my alone time. I gain energy from having that alone time. So I try to find a balance in between there. I try to be engaging and somewhat dynamic, but I just want to give my presentation. I want to deliver the value that the audience members are there to receive. Remember that. If you're connecting with that value, how can I most effectively, because of me and who I am and the style that I prefer, and staying true to that style and to myself, how can I most effectively deliver that value to my audience? That's what you should be watching for. Staying true to yourself no matter who you are. You just want to get in there and give data and facts and figures and sit down, that's okay. If you are very dynamic and engaging naturally, then be that way when you're delivering your presentation. The worst thing that you can do is try to force yourself to fit into someone else's mold and style. Personally, when I watch a presentation and I know that person on a personal level, whether via work or my personal life or family or whomever, and I know that they are like this, but they're trying to deliver like this, that is a disconnect for me. I'm not connecting with them. But you will connect with me every time if you stand up there and I know you're like this and you're delivering just the same and it just blends and meshes perfectly. That's what connects with me the most. So make sure you are staying true to who you are as a person, that you're natural and authentic and true to who you are. While you are staying true to who you are and delivering in that way, make sure that your audience knows that you care about the content, the material that you're presenting on. If you don't care, or if they perceive that you don't care, they are not going to care. Now, there is a limit and a balance that you need to find of caring too little and coming across as apathetic, or too much and coming across as salesy. And we know what happens when we engage and interact with salespeople, that in the back of the mind, we're thinking, what are they trying to get me to do? What are they selling me on? Is the only reason they're bringing up this point or this point to sell me on that thing? That's that balance that we need to find between caring too much and conveying too much caring, or caring too little and conveying that apathy towards your content. All right, you're getting ready to wrap up your presentation. You've delivered all of your main points and the logical connections between those points, and you're wrapping up. Do not abruptly sit down and conclude. That is the worst way to end a presentation. What you want to do is summarize in 10 to 15 seconds. Now, summarizing your presentation does 3 key things with your audience. First of all, the logos side, or the logic, connecting with their minds. What you're doing is essentially delivering a succinct summary of your presentation to your audience for them. You're doing the work for them. The pathos side, or the emotional side, is you have an opportunity to convey your message, convey your emotions, recap those emotions that you're wanting your audience to feel right at the very end, so that you get that long tail of your presentation. And lastly, that credibility side, the ethos part of it, your audience is thinking, whether they realize it or not, wow, he or she really knows his stuff. That is amazing. He just wrapped it all up succinctly and clearly and told me what the whole summary was. That builds up that credibility for you as a presenter. One bonus tip I couldn't leave out today. What if you make a mistake during your presentation? First of all, remember that that is okay. You are human. Every single member of your audience is human as well, and every one of them, I guarantee you, has probably made a mistake in a presentation before. That is okay. Do not let it derail your entire presentation. I have seen excellently prepared presenters stand up there, make one small mistake, and it just derails everything, and they spiral, and it just flops. There's something in boxing called rolling with the punches, and you may have heard that term before, but what that means is that if you take the full force of a punch into your face or your body, it's gonna hurt and it's gonna do damage. But when you roll with that punch, you are physically turning with that punch, it deflects the force out into the air. You are not taking that full force into your body. Same thing when making a mistake. The mistake is the punch, it comes, you roll with it, does a tiny little damage, but then you keep going. You just keep rolling with your presentation. Do that for every mistake. Now, if it's just a tiny mistake, just roll with it, just go, ignore it, don't even think about it, don't acknowledge it. If it's a medium level mistake, you may say something like, "Excuse me," and just keep going. If it's a bigger mistake, you might say something like, "Excuse me, what I meant to say was," and fill in the blank, and then just keep going. But no matter the level of the mistake, just keep going. Don't dwell on it. Don't let it derail your motivation, your confidence, your momentum. There is so much more to convey with the actual delivery, but I did want to give you those few tips that are most important to me. Take a look at my other videos for lots more content on the preparation, the delivery. Now, let's talk about what happens after you sit down. You've given your presentation. Hopefully it went really, really well, and you're done. You sit down. What to do then? What I would recommend is if you have personal connections in the audience, ask them after the fact a couple of questions. One of those being, how authentic and natural did I come across when I was presenting? That is super insightful. If they tell you that, oh yeah, you seemed a little stiff and a little forced, like you were trying to fit a mold, that is super telling in that you need to root yourself to who you are and deliver in that way. Maybe they'll tell you your natural delivery was spot on, but I felt like the content wasn't prepared quite as well as it could have. That gives you feedback on how to improve next time. So asking for feedback if you're comfortable with it. What I wouldn't recommend is just sending out a big broad survey email. Hey, give me pointers and tips and tricks on how to do better next time. I wouldn't do that. But if you have those connections, feel free to ask in a natural, authentic way. Also, walk yourself through the entire presentation and how you felt you did. Did you leave big portions out? Did you forget to bring this story up or that analogy or that data point? Talk to yourself about how you think you did. That feedback, that personal introspective feedback is very, very helpful in improving every single time a little bit every time you present. I always recommend after you give a presentation, after the event is over, feel free to walk around and interact with your audience. Now, a lot of people call this networking. Networking to me has a hidden connotation of you're trying to gain something from them. Don't do that. Just go out there, be personable, interact with them. Oftentimes you'll find that certain audience members will come up and want to talk to you and engage with you and ask you questions about your presentation. I love that. It's an opportunity to really dive in and make some connections. Maybe someone has some point that they know about that you don't know about that they'll share with you. Maybe you set up a meeting after the fact to go and discuss whatever it was that they wanted to bring up with you. That can be a great opportunity to learn more and enhance yourself, your own knowledge for that next presentation. This was actually a really hard video to create because there is so much content I want to share with you. It is coming, I promise. Please subscribe so you can keep an eye on those videos that are coming, and I would love some likes if they add value to you. Remember, you prepare solidly, you prepare that content, you understand your audience, you've done all that pre-work, you deliver well in your own natural style, and then there are some follow-up things that you can do to help really nail down your presentation. You've got this. Thanks so much.